Guy Adami.
What's up?
Well, what's up is we are here to talk to some sports with Brett Stover, studio host of
Stop.
CBS Sports, the one and only, the guy who not only launched his career off the world's strongest man, but can tell us really what's going on in college athletics these days. Is sadly teams are dropping off the map. Brent, thanks for joining us today, man.
Hey, it's a pleasure. I appreciate you guys having me. I saw Greg Amsinger on here a couple of weeks ago, so I know that the bar is high. So thank you.
He didn't really give us a whole lot of room to speak ourselves, so he's not at a loss for words. But no, he was fantastic, man. And obviously, there's so much going on in the world of sports, or not going on because of that. Not only have you covered a myriad of professional sports, but obviously on the collegiate level. I think the business of sports is also something we get into here. So maybe start us out, and guys got a couple questions too. But give me from the front line here how you view college football for the fall. However you want to size this up.
Well, I'm a glass half full guy. I'm the eternal optimist, I promise.
Right on.
But I'm not confident at all that this season is going to happen. What I'm most afraid of is that it's going to start and then it's just not going to work out. But I guess the one silver lining is we're going to know pretty quick. Honestly, we're going to know within the next 3 to 4 weeks, because when fall practice begins right around the first, second week of August, depending on which school, we're going to know right away how this thing is. The American Athletic Conference, Mike Oreska, their commissioner, came out today and said, look, at least 72 hours before every game is the plan. But the one caveat was we may not even get to games. And he said that. But another conference dropped fall sports today, MEAC. Some of these smaller conferences, you already heard it from the Patriot League, as well as the Ivy League, to where they've already said, no, it's a wash. We're not going to have college football or any college sports in the fall. And that's sad. I'm not saying that the Power 5 conferences are going to go the same way, but they certainly did back in March with the NCAA tournament. So that's kind of a bad omen, I think.
If we were hanging out, I'd call you Stoves. So I'm going to call you Stoves from here on.
We are hanging out. We are hanging out.
That's okay with you. And
I love
am
it.
a huge fan. And just so you know, the bar is actually very low because we had Al Leiter on this thing as well, and Al is just a disaster. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I love Al Leiter. Anyway, so my question, I understand. Listen, I would love to watch a college football game on a crispy October Saturday afternoon, but a lot of these schools don't even have students going back to campus. How is that jiving? How are these universities sort of dealing with the fact that the only people on campus might be the 75 to 100 guys on the football team?
And the optics of that isn't going to be good. I don't believe that if students, and I know some colleges have already announced that they're not going to have classes in person in the fall. I don't believe you can have college football or any college sports without students on campus. I mean, the optics isn't good. And I think that's the advantage, like the NFL. I think the NFL has a much, much better chance of being played. Obviously, there's huge differences between the NFL business model and the collegiate football business model. But I just don't see it happening without students on campus.
The Big Five conferences are pro sports. I mean, you can't tell me that this isn't about money. And where are we finally going to be able to look in the mirror and talk about collegiate sports, especially when we're talking about SEC football or Big Ten football? I don't care where you want to go here. And again, I prefer SEC football. I married into the SEC, by the way. Go Gators. Because Guy and I's alma mater, and I don't want, Guy actually put on the pads for good old Georgetown, but my high school football team, the Scarsdale Raiders, could have beat the Georgetown Hoyas. Sorry, Guy, but that's for another tale. What's your sense here on, does this get us closer to college kids getting paid, at least at some of these high level viewer and TV contract sports?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the collegiate football players have more power than they've ever had. And I think that's manifesting itself in a couple of different ways in terms of what's going on and what you're seeing in terms of social justice right now. I think you're seeing more and more athletes, and the top athletes, and even the athletes that maybe aren't the superstars, come out and have a voice. And I think with that is going to be more and more pressure to get something done in terms of the topic and the narrative that you're talking about. And that is getting players paid for their image and likeness. I don't know how it's going to work, but somehow, some way, whether people agree with it or don't agree with it, I think it's just going to kind of get, forced in there. And I guess this is as good a time as any, because part of me says, boy, there's a lot going on right now. Can we do one thing at a time? But at the same time, there might not be a better time for people to get their voices heard on this. I've never been a huge proponent of players getting paid for their name, image, likeness. But I'll be honest, I'm starting to turn that corner. It's just if there's a good plan, because that can get really messy, obviously. There's the top players, but what about the wide receiver that's the third receiver on the team and, makes 25 receptions? Well, but they kind of do 25 receptions and maybe 6 touchdowns throughout the year.
I take it.
What kind of piece of the pie is he getting? So it can be a tricky road that you go down, certainly with that.
Think about what happened just in March. The NCAA tournament obviously canceled. That's a huge hit for these networks. I mean, you can speak to that exactly. And I'm not asking for inside baseball stuff, but you can only imagine the conversations going on at CBS, at ABC, and obviously ESPN, because they're married at the hip, at NBC. If there is no fall football, I mean, what is the backup plan? Because with each passing day, we're a lot closer.
It would be interesting, and I'm not privy to those conversations. I will say at CBS, they've done a tremendous job with keeping us up to date on everything. But I think what we would all find is, even in the highest level of meetings with the TV networks and these conferences and the NFL and the PGA, and obviously with CBS, the PGA is back going again. That's a big deal. They just inked the deal for UEFA Champions League, and that's going to restart here with the finish of the 19 and 2020 campaign in August. So, I think CBS is well positioned, but in terms of those high level meetings between conferences and leagues and the networks, I even think you would probably find that they still have a lot of questions, and they're trying to figure it out. Because as a nation and as a world, I don't think anybody completely has this thing figured out. And I think that's just trickling down, and it changes hour by hour, minute by minute, week by week, certainly.
So before we leave college athletics, I got to ask you, Brent. You went to K-State. You're the Wildcats, but so are about 19 other schools in Division I NCAA. I mean, how does that make you feel, man? I mean, like, why can't you change your name to something different? I mean, I've always thought that about, like, when you're playing Kentucky, what happens?
No, and especially like Northwestern, they are also the Wildcats, and they're also like the exact same color scheme, so that just adds in. Maybe I should have gone to KU. We could have been the Jayhawks. Now, the football program has been bad for a long time, but
I'm sure there's no love lost there. There's a lot of love for MLB between, Guy and I talk about baseball all the time, and you've covered the Pirates, you've covered St. Louis, and we're fired up because this Saturday there's actually going to be, at least until this gets shut down, Mets are playing Yankees in a little mini Subway Series preseason. This is about as excited as I've been for a sporting event forever. So, baseball probably deals with the same issues as pro football, maybe a little bit more staying power than NFL, than college football. But let's talk about that. And you're probably a purist for the game. Do you like the product that's getting ready to be rolled out here?
Hey, listen, it's better than nothing. I mean, it's going to be strange without the fans, but heck, I'll take it. I've been watching NASCAR. I've been watching Indy racing. I've been watching a lot of European soccer. And over the last couple of months, I've kind of gotten used to it.
And you're bored.
No fan.
Come on, the European soccer. Come on, dude. I mean,
listen,
he went to K-State, dude. You guys weren't watching, Manchester U. All right, let's be clear. NASCAR, I believe you probably had a dip in your mouth, and you're probably doing that. But
exactly. No, exactly. You got to be a gearhead if you grow up in the Midwest. But no, I'm trying to get into it, but I've never been so excited for Major League Baseball since I was a little kid. And so whatever they're going to roll out there, and I realize it's not going to be perfect, and we're going to have like top players that sit out for a week or two because of COVID-19. But I'll take anything at this point, and I think it might be kind of cool with a 60-game sprint. Guys, I'm going to go on record and say this August of sports is going to be awesome. You got the NHL restarting, the NBA restarting, Major League Baseball starting for the first time this season. There's a million auto races to watch. PGA's back. UEFA Champions League. Like, this 4 or 5 week span in August and into September is going to be incredible.
Well, Tim, I got a question for Stokes, and it's going to be a good one. It's going to be in part 2 of this interview. So we're going to take a break here, and we're going to catch you on the other side.